All right, joined now by Mark Daniels, Patriots beat reporter for the Providence Journal. Mark, thanks so much for joining us. All right, this is unprecedented times we are living in. What are you expecting from this slow ramp up for what we would consider training camp? We won't see football for a little bit as the Patriots begin this process this week.
Yeah, I mean, this week seems much of a formality. Players show up to Gillette Monday and Tuesday, split into two groups, and they'll get tested. I believe Wednesday is just like a video virtual meeting day. Thursday, the players who were tested get tested again. And if players get two negatives, they can go to Gillette Stadium on Friday, and they'll start the acclimation process, as the NFL is sort of calling it. Where basically they'll be doing strength and conditioning. Unfortunately, it's training camp is basically here, but they'll be doing things they would have been doing in April in previous years, which is when guys do the strength and conditioning, and they're basically running sprints and stuff. And we probably won't see a semblance of football until mid-August. So it's almost here. We can kind of taste it, but it's still a little bit away.
All right, so that being said, who does this hurt the most? Obviously, you can say rookies, maybe Cam Newton
Yeah.
because he's new to the team. I guess I'll start with the quarterbacks. Specific to that QB battle, how do you think the no preseason games, this bizarre preseason, helps or hurts Cam Newton and Jarrett Stidham?
Yeah, I mean, it hurts Cam Newton because he wasn't healthy last year and he has a lot to prove, and he has to do that, and he has to compete for a job without appearing in any preseason games. It's going to be really difficult to judge. On top of that, Cam Newton obviously hasn't had a single practice for the Patriots. He wasn't even there for the virtual meetings, which they were doing in April, May, and June. So he has a lot of catching up to do. But even with Jared Stidham, I mean, this does hurt him because he doesn't have a lot of experience. We saw him for 4 preseason games last year. Yeah, he looked good, but he didn't really get a lot of time, in the regular season to play. And I heard he did well in practice last year. Take that for what it's worth. But you want to see Jared Stidham do it in a game. And truthfully, the Patriots will open up week one with the giant question mark at quarterback, regardless of who's starting, just because we don't have anything to see this summer to say, yeah, this guy's ready to go.
Right. Usually we overreact to preseason performances, but at least that's some semblance of real game action. This is really going to be a bizarre build up to the first week of the season. That being said, who right now on July 27th do you think starts for the Pats week one?
I'll go with Cam Newton. He has the body of work. He's a veteran. If this works out perfectly, it'll be a great story. It's sort of Cam Newton's comeback tour. He seems like he's motivated. It seems like he's in shape based off all those Instagram videos I've been watching. I'll give it to him just because with Jared Stidham, there's so much unknown. Also, I think Josh McDaniels could have some fun with Cam Newton. It'll be a different offense. You'll see, a much more mobile quarterback than we've had in the past 20 years. But I'll give the nod to him. I don't think that's counting out Jared Stidham, and maybe he still is the quarterback of the future. But for 2020, with this weird off season we've had, I say roll with the veteran.
Other than the quarterback position, what's your biggest unknown, your biggest question mark for the 2020 Pats?
I have to go wide receiver and tight end. Those really important pass catching positions. We have no idea who the starting tight end will be. Maybe it'll be Devin Asiasi, a third round pick out of UCLA. Maybe it's Matt Lacoste. Who knows? And at wide receiver, Julian Edelman's 34. Mohamed Sanu's around 30, 31. And then N'Keal Harry, we don't know what he brings to the table just because he was hurt for so long last year. I think there's just a lot of unknowns with that. And I think that was a big topic last year, even going into the offseason, was Tom Brady doesn't have enough weapons. Well, Tom Brady's not here, and you're still not entirely sure the Patriots have enough weapons.
Um, we saw what happened with Major League Baseball today with the Marlins and the Phillies game postponed, or the Phillies Yankees game because of the Marlins COVID-19 situation. Um, Everyone always asks me, as I'm sure they ask you, because we do this for a living, is there going to be an NFL season? The NFL has the benefit of some time, whatever it is, 6 weeks out, 7 weeks out from now. Ultimately, do you think this thing gets underway as scheduled in September?
I'm an optimistic person, but you see what's happening with the Miami Marlins. Now you factor in 80 players per team, 80 players in August going to training camp. I have no idea how the NFL is going to actually make this work, and maybe I'm being pessimistic. I don't see it happening right away just because there are parts in the country where all this stuff is still flaring up. I was reading, honestly, the CDC this morning, trying to read about the NFL and training camp, and like Florida over the last 7 days is over like 70,000 new cases. whereas opposed to Massachusetts, over the last 7 days, it's like 2,000. That's a really big jump between what's happening here in New England and all of the rest of the country. And it's hard for me to see 3 NFL teams in Florida, 2 in Texas, what, 3 in California, all operating with 80 players per team and nothing going wrong. I want to see football as bad as anyone else. I'm just not entirely sure how the league's going to do this thing with not operating in a bubble.
And do you think any NFL players, staff members are going to ultimately consider opting out, or if it gets to the point where the NFL thinks it's a go, do you think guys will opt out like we've seen some Major League Baseball guys do?
Yeah, it makes sense. It made me think of, the Patriots for sure. I know Ivan Fears is, in his 60s, and I saw Jeff Howe of the Athletic said Troy Brown will start working with some running backs this year. I thought that was pretty interesting, but you wonder if any of the older assistant coaches will bow out. Then you look at the guys in the Patriots who have had a history or health issues. For example, David Andrews had blood clots in his lungs not too long ago. I know we talked to him earlier in the offseason, and it seemed like he was gearing to go. He's been practicing with Jared Stidham, some other guys this summer. But then look at Marcus Cannon, Patriots starting right tackle, had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He had cancer, before, coming into the NFL. Like, what do players like that do? I mean, if you've had cancer in the past, would you want to play during COVID? I truthfully might not want to. Marcus Cannon has a family. He has multiple kids here in the area. I mean, it's one of those things that, yes, I think you'll see people opt out, and I wouldn't be surprised to see players on the Patriots opt out. There are, 80 guys on that roster. There are a lot of people with family members and kids.
All right, last one. What are your expectations should the season go for Tom Brady down in Tampa?
I think we'll see Tampa in the playoffs. He has a really good offense down there, and I'm not going to say they're going to go undefeated, but maybe you see him win somewhere in that 10 to 12 game range. I don't think that Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl, but maybe a nice little playoff run with the Bucs will be all the people need down there in Tampa Bay.
All right, good stuff, Mark Daniels. Appreciate your perspective on the Patriots. Thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll be seeing you soon at Gillette Stadium.
Hopefully. Thank you.